Hey everybody, btorpo here, and today I'm going to show you something that we've been dreaming about for a long time. And so this is from whiteboards and conversations. Oh gosh, they're like 3 years old now. But we had this idea for this thing that we codenamed HAX. HAX is short for Headless Authoring User Experience, or experience. So it's the X, so we could get a cool name. But so we dreamed about doing this. We made all these different components over the years, components, quote unquote, and just nothing worked. Nothing seemed like it was going to be the thing that would make this a reality. We made lots of prototypes. I made some that actually worked, sort of, but they always felt like they just kind of sort of worked and not fully. And so this is the first fully functional HAX prototype. And by prototype, I mean this now saves to a backend, so it's production, in my opinion, as far as, something we could actually use. We're moving out of prototype phase. So what is it? Well, you can click HAX body here and check out the demo of it wired up, but I'll go to it running on localhost. So what it is imagine an authoring experience that was entirely engineered in the front end that didn't have to worry about the back end. Drupal goes through all kinds of hoops to just try and figure out how to get things on the page in the right place, how to let people drop things into layouts, how to move panels around. Then everybody builds a billion in-place editing tools, and then they build a billion, token input, entity types of things, right? So we're trying to skip all of that and say that that's all wrong, both in Drupal and in any system. Ultimately, I want to save to a just kind of HTML. Like, it wasn't that the whole point of a CMS was to be able to generate HTML faster than we could previously. That was the whole point of a WYSIWYG, but it didn't actually give me what I wanted. So this will, because this is just touching DOM. And so if I want to edit that, I click it, right? And I change it in place. If I want to change it from a paragraph to something else, right? We don't use words like paragraphs, right? It's normal, or it's a title. Then I'll make it a title. If I don't want it to be that size title, I can make it a content heading or a subheading or a block quote, or maybe it's a snippet of code. But whatever it is, I should just be able to do it. If I want to move it, I should be able to move it. And it should be done in a very accessible way with buttons I can easily navigate to, no drag and drop craziness just to put this in the right place, right? Why am I having to mess with all these different containers? If I just wanted to be a bulleted list, I should probably just tell it, hey, be a bulleted list. Well, that's nothing new. Everything has done this before at some level, right? I can click that, and I can underline it, I can remove the formatting, right? These are the things we expect from WYSIWYGs, right? But I could duplicate, and I can move that around, or I could be like, heading 3 is wrong, and delete just heading 3, not everything else surrounding heading 3, not some random invisible space between heading 3, right? If I want to add those, I can, and I want to shift them all the way to the left or whatever, or right, or whatever goofy way I want to present them, I can do it, and I'm just influencing that thing in question. If I want to duplicate that, I can, and move it over there. If I want to insert a divider, I could insert just a divider and then maybe take my divider and be like, well, shoot, that was in the wrong place. Instead of clicking painfully between lines, I'm actually selecting the thing I intend to, right? And so if we just are able to insert whatever we want, and we do it without talking to any backend, this is just running in localhost via Polymer Serve, that we could start to add all kinds of other functionality, right? That, if in the case of education, if we start adding in multimedia and things that are more engaging, and then we just do it in the same manner where I just reach out and touch the DOM and manipulate it, let the backend deal with the backend of what a quiz is or what an assignment is or what have you, but that the authoring experience should be unified, it should be system agnostic, and it should be incredibly intuitive. So the important thing with the headless demo is I can click export at the end. And what export does is the HAX body tag analyzes itself, figures out what that content is, and then it strips off all of the hacks, if you will, that kind of help with positioning, and we get this. Now, that's neat. I could take that and I can copy and paste it someplace else, or show people here, but isn't the point to do it other places in CMSs or other larger systems? Well, we have that working now. So this is in Elms with that same code base, the same headless code base, except now there's wiring behind it. So if you've seen anything of Elms or what we're doing with this book, this is a book player, content player, if you will, and you can kind of step through the material. And I might go, oh, you know what? That's clearly not supposed to say image title. And forever I would go and I'd hit an edit button and I'd go to some bloated WYSIWYG and modify it. Well, what if I can just edit any HTML ever created in the same way that I just showed? Let's get rid of that. It's not image title. There's some big blank empty container. Let's move that down there. Close this introduction to the thing. We're going to hit save, and we just saved it. HAX moves out of the way nice and inobtrusively. All it is, as far as integration point on the front end, is it's the implementation of our HAX panel, which is what that flyout is, and it is the HAX body, which is down in here. There it is, HAX body. And so HAX body working together with the panel is delivering the entire experience in a completely headless manner. So we're not confined to Drupal, we're not confined to any other system for that matter. So we could actually, maybe let's put this in another system. Oh, there it is. And so if you've also seen it in my tweets, I've been messing around with Backdrop, and I haven't been messing around with Backdrop for any real reason other than I like supporting community open source software. But this is the same code base, the same little app player thing running in Backdrop. Now, I can cheat a little bit because parts of the back end are the same between Drupal 7 and Backdrop. So let's ignore the fact that I'm lazy and just cheated on that. Right, so this is content being delivered from Backdrop into our little UI here. It does the same little dings, right? So all that is just headlessly delivered, tracking where I am in the page visually. But I want to edit this. I get the same user experience as I just demonstrated headlessly, as I just demonstrated in Drupal 7. Elms is based on Drupal 7, a lot of it anyway, right? And that I can use the exact same user experience, again, integrating with a single tag to get all of that UX work in there. So this should be kind of a game changer, to be perfectly honest. I also recently ported this module to Drupal 6, and it doesn't really load in Drupal 6 necessarily, but again, just to try and illustrate the ability to utilize the same conventions over and over again, right? Now Drupal 6 is kind of a unique beast, just as far as that I don't have it talking to the back end appropriately, but what this other thing, little drag and drop upload widget, which is Vaadin driven, Vaadin-upload, is supposed to illustrate is, again, these assets are not actually tied to the framework we're putting them in. They're tied to the browser as a using the browser as a platform. We can build things in a lot more repurposable way. So if you're interested in HAX, learning more about it, playing around with the online demo, you can go to HAX-body on webcomponents.org. You can see some of the properties involved, see that obviously not all these buttons work yet, still wiring some other ones up, adding in flexibility so that, for example, content outline is very specific to Elms, so putting flexibility into our HAX components so that they can work nicely with Elms, but that they work for anything. We want to release, HAX as a content editing system just for Drupal as a standalone module, so that you could just turn off your current WYSIWYG, and that's so you can dump a lot of the different workflows that you have for content production. So next steps involve images, getting some of these other buttons to work, and doing so in a flexible way, right? Because embed a URL, I could probably do it in a very generic way, right? Embed a URL is effectively an iframe, and an iframe could just be pop a modal over top of everything, similar to like this modal, except it says like, what's your URL, and is a little cleaner interface-wise. That I could do, and I could package and solve that problem universally for HAX and just the web. Video, maybe I could do that. Image, maybe I can do that, right? Because you start to get into back end and, okay, is this video from YouTube? Well, if it's, pops open one of these little bursts, maybe I have a tab specifically for YouTube and Vimeo, because those are very popular social media services. Be able to search just right in there and generate the URL to click and then insert whatever the thing is. But then obviously needing to allow for support for internal systems, right? Because we do have our own media solutions, all of us. So these are some of the considerations of HAX, and it's finally reaching a point of maturity that I can, bother to show it and talk through it a bit. So getting very, very excited about that. Some of the different prospects of what this will provide, and feel free to ask questions. So we're pretty excited about it.